Ugh. Okay. That looks pretty good. Okay. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. If you know me, you know that I like to watch movies all the time. And if you follow me on Snapchat, you know that I put a lot of movie ratings on Snapchat. Well, I've always wanted to expand on those ratings and let people know why I think... Oh, that doesn't look good. The outside is just going to be overexposed. I've always wanted to expand on those movie ratings in a YouTube video style. But the movie review channels that are out there, all they do is just sort of like sit in front of a camera really awkwardly and just sort of talk. And then it like shows clips of like the trailers and stuff. I didn't want to do that. That looked really awkward and stupid. So I'm basically just gonna make like a vlog kind of movie review style video series to review a bunch of movies. And today is Christmas Day, and I've got some errands to run, some last minute gift wrapping to do. So I'm gonna talk about Star Wars: The Last Jedi while I do those things. So first of all, when I reviewed it on Snapchat, I gave it a 6 out of 10. And the reason I want to talk about that movie in my first video here is because I want to kind of explain why it was a 6 out of 10. I had some people asking. First and foremost, a 6 out of 10 is not a bad review. That is a positive review. For me, a 1 out of 10 movie is a movie that has 0 redeeming qualities. Nothing about the movie is good or well done. A 5 out of 10 movie is the average movie you see. So anything above a 5 out of 10 is a good movie. And then all the way up to 10 out of 10, I think, is a masterpiece, something perfect, something flawless, something that's got nothing going wrong for it. So I gave Star Wars: The Last Jedi a 6 out of 10. So I think it's an above average movie, but I think it has a lot of problems. And I think from what I've seen for most people's videos, most people that review this movie, they all have sort of the same things to talk about. And I agree with most of those things. Like, it has definitely some of the best Star Wars things I've ever seen in a Star Wars movie, but it also has some of the worst. I thought overall it was enjoyable because of how different it was from any other Star Wars movie. I think that's what Rian Johnson was going for. He was going for something that would be completely different and kind of throw away everything that you've ever known as Star Wars and try to make something to show that Star Wars can be whatever you want it to be and whatever the director wants it to be. I think that was his goal. But at the same time, it had a lot of issues. Pacing wise, it had a lot of what felt like filler in it. It also, in my opinion, had a lot of unnecessary humor. And there were some of the things that were fine. Like, you can't have a movie without any humor. And honestly, I thought the Porgs were fine. There was maybe like 1 or 2 scenes that they were just in a little bit too much. But I thought like they weren't overbearing. And clearly they were there to sell toys, but who really cares? You got to make money. I'm like, this is Disney. You don't really need to make money. But then, like, the opening scene, there was, like, a joke, and it went on for really long, and it was not delivered very well, and it wasn't really received very well in the audience. I've seen it twice, and both audiences haven't laughed at most of the humor in this movie. And that doesn't mean the humor is bad, necessarily. It just means that it's out of place and just sort of, like, why are we doing this right now? Like, this doesn't need to be happening. A lot of people I've heard say that it's comic relief so that like you're not like really weighed down by this movie, but that's not an excuse. I think any movie can be serious when it's appropriate and can be comedic when it's appropriate, but when you have inappropriate comedy mixed in with your dramatic scenes, it just sort of takes away from the impact of those scenes. And I thought that's what this movie did incorrectly a lot of the time. Anyway, what else do I want to talk about Star Wars? I guess without going into like spoiler talk, I definitely thought all the wide shots, or at least most of the wide shots, were incredibly well done. A lot of the shots were super beautiful, a lot of the space shots, and like, if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about, and I'll talk about that later. But I thought it was shot very well. I thought the music was good. I thought the action was really good, at least really well choreographed. I don't really know how long I want this video to be, but I'm just going to talk until I've got nothing else to talk about. I thought a lot of the aspects of the movie were really well done. I just thought the writing could have improved. improvement in the writing would have improved the pacing issues I had, would have improved some of the character issues I had, and it would have improved, I don't know, the basic plot issues that I had. And that's where I'm going to talk now about spoilers, because I have a lot of issues with some major parts of the story. So if you don't want to hear any spoilers about this movie, skip to this point in the video, and we'll pick it up from there. Basically, what I really didn't like was the main plot of this movie. The idea that they were, I guess, just sort of like stalling for time the entire time, just made it feel like nothing was happening. Like, so the last of the Resistance is in these like 3 ships, and they're like just out of reach of like the Empire's like guns, like on their big ships. And since they're just out of reach, like the TIE fighters won't go out after them because the big guns can't cover them, which somebody brought up. I read a lot online and I watch a lot of YouTube reviews. Somebody brought up how like the Empire, or this isn't the Empire, this is the First Order, they wouldn't really care about a few spare fighter ships if it meant destroying the last of the Resistance. But then I heard somebody also say that like what we're seeing in this little fight is the last of the Resistance versus the last of the First Order. But then I watched the movie again, and that's not true. Like, they talk about how this is a dreadnought, as if there were many. Like, they don't say this is the dreadnought. Like, they say it's not every day you can take out a dreadnought. So they have a lot more fighters, and they have a lot more stuff. So why are they so worried about losing some TIE fighters or whatever if it means destroying this is the last of the Resistance? Here we are. We're at the UPS drop-off box. Oh boy. Let's straighten this out a little bit. You know, I have a problem getting things straightened out. Oops. 1 thing down, 2 to go. So the fact that this entire plot just relied on like the First Order like not willing to risk a few TIE fighters was stupid to me. Because they had already blown up all like the cover that the Resistance could do. Like Kylo Ren did that. That was really cool. That was the first thing I had a problem with. The other thing I had a problem with was the entire Admiral Holdo and Poe storyline. That was incredibly stupid, because I thought maybe I would give Holdo the benefit of the doubt. You know, people were saying that like she wasn't telling Poe her plan because he's just a flyboy and she doesn't need to explain her orders to him, he just needs to follow her orders. I was like, okay, that makes sense. But when I saw the movie a second time, she didn't give him any orders. She didn't give anybody any orders. Her like second in command in like the main deck area was part of Poe's mutiny plan, because she didn't even know what was going on. So if you're not going to tell anybody your plan, how are you going to assume that they know that there is a plan? And she knows that Poe is this trigger-happy flyboy, as she calls him. So if she's dealt with his kind before, then she would know that his kind of personality is someone who, if you're not going to tell him a plan, he's going to come up with one on his own. And what you should do is give him something to mull over, and give him something so that he won't go crazy and do something on his own. Because if you had just told him that you had a plan, you didn't even say you had a plan. You just said, if you would have told him, we have a plan, we're going somewhere, he wouldn't have tried to send Finn and Rose to get this codebreaker guy, and the codebreaker guy wouldn't have been able to rat out the Resistance to the First Order, and they would have succeeded in their plan. So if she just would have said anything, they would have been fine. And that's dumb. When your writing relies on characters just withholding information for no good reason, then you've written yourself into a hole and your plot falls apart. So next I want to talk about Finn and Rose. And a lot of people hate Rose, and hate that she was introduced into this movie, and hate that she seems to be the new love interest for Finn. And I did too, after the first time I saw the movie. But I saw it a second time, and my opinions have changed once again. I thought at first her character was pointless. She had no point in the story. She had She wasn't doing anything. She was just there to be there so they could try to shoehorn in this romance between her and Finn. But watching it a second time, that I kind of feel she has more of a place in the story. Like, she wasn't doing nothing on this journey to the Canterbite or whatever it's called. She was there to, like, shut down their, like, tracker system. She knew how to do that. She was, apparently the hacker guy couldn't know how to do that. So she had a purpose in the story, and I also felt that she was there more because of her sister and less because of Finn. To me, it felt like she was in love with this idea of a hero, and she just wanted to become this hero like her sister was. And when she meets Finn, she wanted to become this hero like Finn is, because in her eyes, Finn's this like super celebrity for the Resistance. So her purpose in the story is just more so that she can become a hero in her own mind. And I think when she kisses Finn, it's very deliberate that he doesn't kiss her back, because he, like the rest of the audience, didn't realize that there was any chemistry, because there isn't any chemistry between them. And he knows that, at least in that moment he does. And when she kisses him, that's more her, not in love with Finn, but in love with the idea of being a hero, and in love with a hero. And so I was sort of able to write all that off. But if in the next movie they write it so that Finn and her are together and they become a thing, then it throws out all this argument that I've put together, and yes, everybody should hate her character. So that's what I have to say about that. Also, I have to talk about the code breaker, because this is really dumb, and it's another situation where I thought the movie was going one way and written, and like the way I thought it was going would have been written well and like executed well, but then it turns a corner and writes itself into a dumb hole. They go to Canterbite, or whatever this casino planet is, which a lot of people had a problem with because it was just like super padding, and it felt like to me that they were just trying to expand the universe, the Star Wars universe, but they did it in a way that was really like not needed. You're showing me a bunch of new creatures that I'm not going to care about, and you're showing me this city and explaining like, oh, this happens in Star Wars. Well, I could have assumed that happened in Star Wars. Like, I didn't really need to be explained that there are rich people who sell shady stuff to get their wealth. Like, I could have guessed that. So they're there looking for this code breaker, and he's got this like red flower lapel, and like whatever, like who cares like why they're there to look for this guy. Like, there's a couple like conveniences as to why they had to go to this planet, but they go to this planet and they're looking for this lapel guy, and they find him, and he's like really smirky looking, and not really, to me he didn't really look like the kind of guy that I think we'd be looking for. I thought we'd be looking for somebody who's more like on the charm level of the one alien. I don't remember her name. She was the one that was like fighting a union dispute and like sent them to go look for this guy. Anyway, I thought when we found the guy, I thought, this isn't the right guy. This isn't who we're supposed to be looking for. So then when they get thrown in jail and they meet up with this other code breaker, I thought, oh, this is the right guy. And the guy before just stole this guy's flower lapel, and we're going to find out that he's going to get it back, and this is the right guy that we've been looking for. Because he seemed more like the kind of guy that we've been looking for. I thought they were going to go that way with the writing, and then they just didn't. This just happened to be another code breaker out of nowhere that knew exactly what to do and was conveniently the only other person in the cell with them. Ooh. They had it in front of them, the perfect like way to explain how they get the code breaker if they wanted to go the way that they went, and then they just didn't do that, and it ruined that part of the movie for me. But then I've heard people explain, or the second time I watched the movie, she talked about how the one alien lady, she talked about how he'd be rolling at a high stakes table. So the movie did early on sort of explain that the first guy was the guy that we were looking for, but I thought it would have been way better if they just had the situation that I described be what was in the movie, because that would have explained it fine. All right, I have to return a movie. Okay, return. I inserted my disc. Thanks. Okay, that seemed to be it. Cool. Okay, I'm actually gonna check to see if Walgreens is open and see if there's anything I can get for my nephews. Oh, I can find out what her name is. Maz. See, I got a little toy here. Maz. All right. Perfect. That'd be great for a 4-year-old. Let's see. Amazing. 1-year-old nephew. Perfect.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Oh, great. You have a great Christmas.
All right, thank you. You too. Merry Christmas. We got one more thing to do, and then we got to wrap presents. I guess what people have been saying is that Maz, I found out her name was Maz, didn't say that there was only one guy who could do this job, but there was only one guy that she could trust that could do this job. So maybe it's just like a bunch of people can do this job, but none of them are trustworthy except for this one guy. So that makes it a little more easy to swallow that they just ran into this guy, but it seemed a little too convenient for me. So that's what I didn't like about that. Now, I have been going over a ton of stuff that I didn't like about this movie, and that's going to make it sound like I didn't like the movie, but I liked the movie. It was okay. So I'm going to talk about some of the things that I really did like about this movie, and one of them was the cinematography and the artistic direction with some of the things. The one that really stands out to a lot of people is the light speed kamikaze sort of thing that Holdo does at the end of the movie. And the way that was done was beautiful. The way it went silent was beautiful. Like the series of like wide shots of all these destroyed ships, it looked just so cool, and just everybody was just so like silent in my theaters that it just sort of like took their breath away kind of a thing. And that's really cool when a movie can do that. And then also things that I liked all the new Force stuff in this movie. So the original trilogy, it gave us the Force, and it kind of left it very mystical, very like, what is this sort of like power that these Force-sensitive people have? And then the prequels came out, and they tried to make it scientific and kind of ruined that mystery and that mysticalness of it. But I thought what this movie did really well is that it brought that mystery back, and it made me feel as though this is a power that I don't really know anything about all over again. And it's just because it expanded on the different things that the Force can do and different things of what the Force means that sort of Luke was talking about and sort of Rey was talking about when they were training or whatever. Yeah, I thought all the new Force stuff was really good. Ooh, sliding around. Like the Force mind linking thing, and all the scenes that Kylo Ren was in were awesome. Like, Adam Driver's a fantastic actor. The sort of like chemistry between Kylo Ren and Rey was done really well, I think. Even though like on paper that doesn't seem like that would do that good. It's to just like kind of shoehorn this connection that these two characters have, because it's so easy to take that into like a very cheesy romantic way. But I think this movie did a really good job of making it seem just sort of like a Force way. Like, these people are connected because one is extreme dark side and one is extreme light side. And so they become connected. And I think what would be really cool is if the movies just went into that gray area, so that there can finally be peace in the galaxy. The dark and the light need to work together. And I think that's what this movie was setting up. And I really hope that's what they go with in the future. And then I said this at the beginning, but I also really liked how different of a Star Wars movie this felt like. It didn't feel like a remake or a rehash, kind of like The Force Awakens did. And I thought The Force Awakens was good. Like, obviously it was sort of like kind of just copying a lot of like literal things from A New Hope. And The Last Jedi does that kind of similarly with Empire Strikes Back. Except it doesn't copy things literally, it copies like themes, and it copies, I don't always even say copies, it's sort of just like, it mimics different themes and stuff that Empire had, but it does them in a brand new way that was really interesting to me. Like, I didn't feel bored at any point watching this movie, and it felt like everything I was seeing was stuff that I had never seen in Star Wars before, and that was really cool to me. Even though some of it I didn't really agree with, and some of it I think didn't really work. It's nice to see them trying, so that we can finally take Star Wars somewhere it's never been before. Oh, I really liked one of the main themes that the movie decided to go with, and that was failure. A lot of people have talked about this, but like pretty much everybody in this movie fails. Kylo Ren fails to convert Rey. Rey fails to convert Kylo Ren. Finn and Rose fail on their mission. The Resistance fails to successfully, they do kind of successfully evade the First Order, but they fail to save everybody. Like, they're down to, like, enough people to fit inside of a Millennium Falcon. The First Order fails to snuff out the Resistance. Pretty much everybody in this movie fails. And I think that's a really important lesson to put in a movie that's kind of geared towards kids. Now at this point, it's kind of like a family sort of series, because it's important to learn that you need failure, and you shouldn't be afraid of failure, because failure is what sets you up to succeed later. And that's a lesson that I definitely connect with, because I feel that fear of failure like a lot. And so seeing that come up more in like movies and stuff really makes me feel good. It makes me feel like it's not this thing that I should be so afraid of, because you can do great things with failure. And I think that's a really important lesson for people to learn. All right, time to park and deliver this letter. Oh, it's cold. Oh, it's cold. It's so cold. Outgoing mail. Great. Ugh.
This scene was great.
So basically, my final thoughts of the movie are, it was pretty good, it was alright, it wasn't the worst Star Wars ever made, but also wasn't the best. But I had some good things going for it, and I had some bad things going for it. I thought Space Leia was terrible. I even thought of a better way they could have done Space Leia. Like, they could have just had it as a close-up of her, like, face or something, as, like, she moves in, and, like, the world sort of moves around her, and you don't really understand what's happening until she's already, like, inside the ship. And you're like, oh. Or you could show them the close-up of her hand, and then all that I just described. And then people have been like, oh, she just sort of force-guided herself into the ship, and it wouldn't have looked stupid. That's not, like, a dumb thing to have in the movie, it was just stupid. Oh, shit. In conclusion, I thought Star Wars The Last Jedi was okay. It was good. It was above average. I'm going to see it for a third time in a couple days with my family. I think you should see it. I think it has a lot of good things going for it that have the potential to outweigh the bad things for certain people. I'm greasy. We finished wrapping our presents. We've done all of our errands. And we finished up the movie review. I'd say that's a pretty productive Christmas. Yeah. Great job, Star Wars.